Hello everyone! Welcome back to Wings Engine Rendering Mode Series tutorial. We've already told you the two most mainstream rendering modes in Wings Engine: cloud rendering and end rendering. Rendering settings. Today we will talk about a newly launched function in Wings Engine, which is our Light 3D rendering settings. Before we start the entire process of Light 3D rendering, let's add some more. Why do we need to launch? We launched this Light 3D function. We've already said that the Light 3D function is aimed at if you sometimes have a project which can be opened on good computers, and some are on poor computers, but they both want to open the project. For computers with better GPS, it hopes that when opening, have a better time. And the GPU is a little bit worse, just want to open the project, but they hope the function is complete. Many students may ask, in this case, can we directly use end rendering or make two copies? Or I use directly cloud rendering, or is lighting 3D necessary? Let's take a quick look at this. In this case, we use end rendering or cloud rendering. Cloud rendering, what are the problems? First, client rendering is easy to understand because some computers have poor GPU performance. If we all use end rendering, we will face a choice. That is to say, if we want to be compatible with computers, the visual effects cannot be too good. If we want to support computers with good GPS, then the computers with poor GPU cannot open it. So for such a scenario, it cannot be satisfied by end rendering. Can cloud rendering meet the needs? It seems that it is possible at first glance. For example, I directly use cloud rendering to host such a project on a relatively good computer of ours. Then on our client, whether it has a good GPU or a bad GPU, it can open this project because this project is not rendered on the client. It is rendered on our server. But in this case, its GPU is very high. We talked about that in the last class. Each instance of our cloud rendering requires at least 8 GB of GPU memory. So let's say we have a computer. It has good performance and visual effects requirements, and its own GPU is also good, and there are 50 other computers. We often encounter grid operators. They also need to open such a grid management system. But this grid management system is 3D, right? These 50 operators, suppose they open this cloud rendering system, our deployed projects. Without a doubt, no matter what kind of GPU, it can handle such a number of concurrent online users. In this case, either the cost of our project will be very high, or make our project impossible to implement. We can only make compromises in the end. That is, we will not make it so beautiful. or even due to projects. This will also lead to the cost of implementing the project will be very high. To solve this problem, Wings Engine has launched a Light 3D. Settings. Today, let's take a look at our Light 3D. From the creation of the project, to the settings, to the final release. First, we started from a new project creation today. To start a new project, we select New Projects. Find the 3D digital creature. Click on the building. The building base scene B. Visual priority. If your computer is a little worse, you can also choose the performance priority. Let's click Create. During the creation process, it needs download the project template. When the download is complete, the editor will automatically open it. After opening it, this is a typical end rendering scene. If we publish it directly, it will also be a scene of end rendering. Let's publish it first. There will be a problem at this time. What if our end rendering, as we mentioned earlier. What should we do if it can't be opened? We need to set Light 3D. First, we need to know that Light 3D is bound to our camera. We first selected this bird's eye camera on the left side and the right side style panel to find the Light 3D. And then, at this time, it asks us to select the current view. Don't worry, we don't have a current view yet. Let's create a new one first. After creating it, we can take a look. The final rendering mode of our Light 3D. The mode is to render around this. For the bird's eye camera, it renders 36 images around this thing. To fix such a three-dimensional effect, let's find a suitable angle first. We must pay attention to the adjustment of this angle. For example, it's not suitable to adjust like this because you can't see it at all in the end. We recommend that you a 45-degree angle. And don't get too close. For example, when we turn our feet like this, if it's too close, it may turn to this angle. The visual effect will be very bad. Be sure not to be blocked by any buildings. Let's zoom out the picture a little bit and pull the perspective away to ensure that during the rotation process, he can see the panorama. This is very important. Let's find such an angle first. After finding it, we click Preview here. During the preview, everyone just don't operate now. Please wait a moment. It converges, and we can see that 36 images are selected. Wait a moment. It will revolve around our current, the camera, our target. The target point will rotate 36 small angles and rotate every 10 degrees. Because in this way, to make the final imitation, that is, we use our pre-rendered images to fake this 3D scene more realistic and smoother. In this way, we can see that our pre-rendered has been completed. Can we directly pay attention? There is a small note. We must select the current view to the pre-rendered view. If you don't select it, then what we will see is it might be a red screen. And then there will be problems. We must select it. After selecting, click on the scene. And then here we can test it. We click Rendering and find the Light 3D mode. We select it to take effect. Now we can see the Light 3D effect. Let's rotate it. As we said before, it's actually a loading mechanism. When we rotate it, it will. There will be no more black screens. On our web, this situation will be much better. At this time, we can see. This is our the effect of Light 3D. This Light 3D effect actually uses 36 images. Its underlying implementation principles is actually very simple. It directly builds this scene with 36 images. To build such a scene, if you only have left and right rotations, without up and down rotation and movement, this scene, for ordinary people, it is hard to tell. It's hard to tell if it's three-dimensional. As we said earlier, our Light 3D. We need to ensure all functions exist. So how can we ensure this? Let's take a look. Let's add a drawing to the scene now. Note that our Light 3D rendering is all the models, trees, and other things, but our labels will be retained. The original 3D effect. For example, we add a three-dimensional drawing. The drawings. Wait a moment. Let's reselect it. Because it is a Light 3D, so it can't. We need to switch back to the original 3D. Let's switch back to the 3D that doesn't work. Let's go back to this. Everyone pay attention. There will be some problems. If you don't switch back to the original 3D, you can't place such a plotting point. After placing this plotting point here, we can even add an animation. For example, we can add a motion effect or a path animation. After we added it, let's make it play continuously. This is too slow. Let's make it run faster. Let's assume we have such an animation. Now, let's switch to our Light 3D view. We picked up. Select our scene. Select the effect. We can see that the animation in our Light 3D is still playing normally, and its position is also completely normal. if we want this thing to be clicked. It has a pop-up window. To have a pop-up window, that is also possible. If we bind a pop-up window to it, it is also completed in Light 3D. But there is a small point to note. Because the underlying layers of our Light 3D rendering images, so it cannot be the entire 3D scene. Let's take a look. Let's assume we turn to this side. We can see that it cannot be obscured by us. This is the only price we have to pay for. The price we have to pay. But there is no way to avoid this. After all, through this Light 3D mode, the loss of computer performance is very low. How to set it? Even on a very poor integrated graphics card, we can turn on this very rendering and gorgeous 3D effect. In addition to this situation, we also have another mode, which is our top and bottom, panoramic mode. How do we set it? There is another Light 3D mode. First, we need to add a camera. First, we need to turn off the Light 3D mode. We added a camera in the scene. A camera, which is our roaming camera. After adding it, we can switch to the roaming camera. Let's first take a look at the operation of the roaming camera. The roaming camera is operated like this. It can move up, down, left, right, forward, and backward. We can switch the roaming camera to a certain angle. Let me show you here. First, we add in the scene and add another drawing. We found the drawings, and then we select this drawing. We added it here, and then what we need to do is, when we click on this mark, it switches to another camera. Let's change the name of this label. We call it Details Viewing. View the details. View the details. There is a name on it. And display the details. You can take a look. It looks like this. And observe the details. What effect do we want to achieve? What we want to do is, when we switch back to bird's eye view now, when our project is normal like this, we click it. Click this button. When we click this button, it's not a switch angle like this, but two switch cameras. Let's first implement it in our True 3D. Let's implement it in our True 3D. We selected this drawing. This label is a bit unclear. Select this marker group. Note that you must select the marker group, not on the mark. We only have one mark here. Actually, selecting the marker group. It can be used to set different markups. We can't select on the mark. After we selected the marker group, we can add an interaction here. We have an automatic one called, which is called visual angle. That's actually an interaction for switching. Let's delete it first. and then click Add. Click to add an interaction. When we click on the mark, note that at this time, we can set different marks. As we just said, select the marker group. Don't select the mark, because when we select the marker group, we can set it for different marks. But here we only have one label. We don't need to set each item. We just select a setting as a whole. We selected the settings for hour. Switch the main camera to hour. The roaming camera. How to set it? Click Modify Settings and specify the component. Then we specify the component as our scene. We directly selected the scene. In the scene, we selected our main camera. Main camera, and then we select Switch to our roaming camera. In this way, we can switch to the roaming camera. Let's try it now. Let's try it in our scene now. When we selected it, look, we can switch to the roaming camera. Of course, there is a problem now. We can switch to the main camera. What should we do? Let's add a button outside. Let's switch it back to the main camera. We added a button with CTRLF. Let's put this button here. Then we switched back to the main camera. Let's add an interaction to this. After clicking, modify the settings and select the specified component. Then we select our scene component. Then we select here. Select our main camera. We switch to our bird's eye camera. In this way, we can. Let's click to try it. Switch back to the main camera. Now let's bring our roaming camera, the camera closer to this point. We hope we are. Stand on this point to observe. Let's assume our roaming camera is here. This interaction is not good because we generally don't want to. We don't usually want to look from the roof, but it doesn't matter. Let's just take a look. After saving the roaming camera here, let's take a holistic look to experience our project. Let's click Preview. Take a look. Our project looks like this, right? It looks like this, and then, when we click on this, it switches to this by looking at the roof. What kind of scenery it is? High above is cold. It's a good view. Let's switch back to our entire, a bird's eye view camera to observe it as a whole. This is our such an interaction. Can we do it in light 3D? Let's set it to light 3D. Note that. If we directly set it to light 3D, because we only have the bird's eye camera has rendered the light 3D. We can see that the light 3D, it renders a light 3D image here, but our roaming camera does not have it. So we must first render the roaming camera to render light 3D. Let's switch to the roaming camera. Note that we must switch to the roaming camera first. Let's observe first. Before we render, we must first observe whether our perspective is reasonable. Here, I want to remind you that our clouds is not suitable for light 3D because the clouds are. We use a technology called TAW, which is called time series upscaling, and anti-aliasing on the time sequence, and so on, which are similar. It will cause some flaws in the pre-rendering. There will be some flaws when rendering light 3D. So I suggest you either turn off the clouds or I could just use directly. Or just use a static sky. Dynamic clouds are not suitable for rendering in 3D, especially when you want to see the sky. Now at this angle. Let's pre-render it in 3D. We selected light 3D. Don't get it wrong. There is an initial view here, and a preset view. And below there is a current view, and a pre-rendered view. Don't get it wrong. What we need to do is this one under light 3D. Let's click on the pre-rendered view first. Click the plus sign. And then we click on pre-render. At this time, it will render 6 images. 6 images, top, bottom, left, right. Please wait a moment. There is an initialization process. You can see that just now. When we look at the sun, which is called lens flare, that will also be pre-selected to our new 3D. If you don't want lens flare to be pre-selected into the new 3D, you can turn off lens flare first. But we won't turn it off here. Actually, the impact is not big. The pre-flashlight 3D will be slightly slower than the 2-view camera. The roaming camera is slightly slower than the bird's eye. Just be patient. Here I have one more thing. I want to remind you that if you are using a close-up scene, for example, here, there is a low map of a sacrifice scene. It will be slower. Why? Because when looking at a certain perspective, many tiles in the distance will be loaded one by one. We have to wait until all the tiles are loaded before we render this image. So for the scene of sacrifice, the rendering of the light's 3D scene will be slower. Everyone must be patient and wait. After the rendering is completed, we will change our current light 3D and change the pre-rendered one to this one. Let's observe it first. Everyone must develop this habit. We must first look at the light 3D. We are currently using the roaming camera. Then click on the scene. Click to apply. Let's take a look at the light 3D of this roaming camera. It can be said to be no different from the real one. You may not even notice it. We've switched to the real scene now. We've switched to real 3D. This is actually almost the same as the real. There is almost no difference. The only thing that seems a bit strange is this lens flare. So as I said before, if you don't like this lens flare, you can consider turning it off. But what's the difference? We can't move like this. This movement will create a distortion of the entire picture. It will distort. It's actually to be more realistic, to increase a sense of reality. Actually, it cannot be moved. We have clicked it to take effect now. Right? We just noticed that. We set up this. The button will switch back to the main camera. Let's see what it feels like during the whole process of what kind of feeling it is. Now I'm using a bird's eye view camera in light 3D. You can see it very well. Click. It switches back to the main camera. It has also switched to the light 3D camera. Note that this is the light 3D main camera, not real 3D. During the rotation process, you can clearly see that this is a light 3D camera. We can't move up and down or move left and right. Can I click on this thing again? Switch to the light 3D roaming camera. Yes, we can. That means our camera, such as camera switching, the movement of our plotting, and the interaction of clicking on the drawings. Of course, our two-dimensional click interactions will be retained in our light 3D. So our light 3D can almost replace the entire original project. This is what we mentioned earlier. If your GPU performance is poor, then you can directly use light 3D. If your GPU is better, you can use the real 3D. The final functions it uses can be fully retained. But which functions cannot be retained? You must pay attention. For example, if there is an animation added by a model, it will not be retained. Only our labels will be retained. This is the first point, so everyone must pay attention. Secondly, as we mentioned earlier, how to let customers to choose the light 3D switch. We have many modes. I recommend the preloading selection the most, because this will give everyone have such flexibility before opening it. For example, if my computer is not good, I can choose to open light 3D. If the computer is good, open the real 3D. I have demonstrated this in the first class. I have already demonstrated it to you. But sometimes we just want it to work on mobile devices. That is, we open True 3D on the computer, and we open Light 3D on our mobile devices because the rendering performance is relatively poor. But sometimes on our mobile devices, need to open some three-dimensional scenes. So when we open Light 3D on our mobile devices, is very suitable. You can try it yourself. When opening Light 3D on mobile, it actually gives people a very shocking feeling because it's hard for you to feel it. That is, you don't do this. 3600 degree, the infinite angle rotation, or camera translation. You can hardly feel the difference between The difference between light 3D and true 3D. Finally, there is a selection based on performance, which is relatively complicated. There is a minimum GPU score. How is this score calculated? Our official website has documents. You can search for it. It says that for different GPS, what kind of scores they have. You can set a score. Set the GPU below this score. Let's say I set this score to a score of 1060 for our NVIDIA. The graphics card below 1060 will open light 3D and true 3D will open. This is equivalent to if you need to achieve. The entire project is very, very perfect. When you open it, my program will automatically. The performance of your GPU too. To divert, like light 3D and real 3D. But there is also a problem, such as some new GPS. It may not be judged accurately. So generally, I still recommend you to choose loading before selection. Let's assume we chose to add it and save it, and then share it. After sharing it, we open it. Actually, we have already demonstrated it before. At this time, it will ask you whether you need to use light 3D. If you have a good computer, you said no, then I'll open the real 3D. If you have a relatively average computer, you choose yes, and it will open the light 3D. Let's demonstrate it to you. I'll choose no first. You can see that it needs to load now. Because the real 3D, it is real, and all the models need to be downloaded. So there is a loading process. This process will vary according to the speed of our internet connection. Now you can see. Is this real 3D or light 3D? Actually, it's hard for us to tell at this time. We switch back to the main camera. We can clearly judge. As long as we can move left and right, and move up and down, then this is our true 3D. We click to switch back. Of course, our roaming can also move left and right. It can also move left and right. Let's turn it off and open it again. This time, we chose to open it with light 3D. We can see that the loading is very fast. At this time, it seems that we can't tell whether it's light 3D or true 3D. Whether this is light 3D or true 3D. Let's move it left and right. We found that we can't move it. Well, it's obviously a light 3D. Let's switch back to the main camera. The main camera will a little bit. This kind of lag. It's because it needs to download a picture. So at this time, is it a light 3D or a real 3D? Let's move it. It can't be moved, and it can't be rotated up and down. It can't be rotated. But we can still switch cameras. Click on A to switch cameras. So the Light 3D, basically in the main functions, or even the main vision, the whole presentation is very close to true 3D. However, it has very low performance requirements for us. Why? Because it is actually playing several images. For our roaming camera, it is a panorama stitched from 6 images. For our main, for the bird's eye camera, it is a rotation of 36 images. In this way, it fakes a 3D rendering result. In this class, I'll take you through the project creation, to the entire pre-rendering of our Light 3D, to the settings of Light 3D, to the final opening of Light 3D, and take you through the entire life cycle of Light 3D. I also explained to you why we use Light 3D, or in what scenarios where it is most suitable to use it. I hope you can use it well in the future, using the function of Light 3D to help us in some special situations, such a delivery scenario, to meet customer requirements. That's all for today's class. Thank you all.